Now, of course, Glenn, we give because God commands us to, first and foremost, but the Lord loves a hilarious giver or a generous giver or a joyful giver. So we really, we don't want to give out of obligation. I mean, I guess if that's the best we can do, we still want to do it because we want to be obedient to the Lord, but we want to be joyful in our giving. And so the purpose for that is because, God commands it and we want to be obedient, but there are some ancillary worldly benefits that come with that. Of course, we don't give to get, but just as a natural consequence in this world of giving, we get some tax benefits. So, what does that look like? Let's say, you mentioned different assets. Let's say that you've got a piece of real estate, commercial property, or a rental house, or something like that that you've owned a really long time. And if you go to sell it, you'd have this huge taxable gain, that you've got to now give the government their part of it. But let's say that you also want to honor the Lord with the increase that he's given you in that piece of property, and maybe you don't have the benefit of itemizing your taxes. What kind of strategy could you use in that kind of situation?
Well, that covers about two or three different questions at one time. Yeah, if you're selling a highly appreciated piece of real estate, sometimes what's not considered is the recapture of the depreciation, which is a higher tax rate than the capital gains in many cases. So you've got to pay the tax, and so this is where it's important that you work and think through the processes before you sell the asset, and begin that planning process. Now, for those people that are not itemizing, there's a way to accelerate your charitable deductions. For example, if you've made a commitment to your church for their building fund, let's say you're going to give $5,000 per year for the next 10 years or the next 5 years. Let's do 10 years. When do you get to take the charitable tax deduction? You're making the commitment for 10 years and you're going to put away $5,000 per year. But when do you get, if you write a check for $5,000, when do you get to take that tax deduction?
You get to take it in the year that you make the deduction, if you itemize, if it's more than the standard.
Yeah, if that's it. So what if there's a way, because of that commitment that you made, that we could accelerate all those tax deductions into the current tax year? So in other words, you've made a commitment to give $5,000 per year for 10 years. Well, that's $50,000. So what if there's a way that we could accelerate that, take that this year, 2022, and you get the present value of that charitable deduction right now. So that would move you up over the itemized deductions. And now to do that, we use a trust that's set up, and that trust would be invested in biblical responsible investing, and then pays out the $5,000 to the church for the building campaign. And it's done. Then at the end of the 10 years, whatever's in the trust is returned back to them. So you're able to accelerate the tax deductions through doing that.
That's good stuff. And then, if you, at that point, you may get a big enough tax deduction to where you are able to itemize. And then what can you do with a deduction? Well, maybe you can get some money out of that IRA that you've been wanting to get out, right? Without going into another tax bracket.
Yeah, so that's exactly what this does. So by accelerating your tax deductions, now you can pull out and figure out how much you can pull out of the IRA and now offset that income with the charitable deduction. So that's the planning, and get it over there where it's tax-free, accumulating into a Roth. So these are just great strategies. Because again, we typically look at three buckets of money. It's taxable. We have already paid taxes. We look at the second bucket, which is the tax deferred bucket, and we look at the tax-free buckets. And most people have much of their money in the tax deferred bucket. And so we want to transfer as much of that into the tax-free bucket that we can do.
Hey, remember to click the subscribe button right here on the screen. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when new content is added. And more importantly than anything, you don't want to miss all 3 live hours of Financial Issues every day from 9 to noon. And you can watch it on FISM.tv. That's FISM.tv.